Hey, what's up guys? So pretty recently the trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming dropped, and it's pretty fucking awesome if I do say so myself. We also got a short little teaser before the actual trailer dropped, and we got an international trailer to go along with the normal trailer. So yeah, I thought I'd make a video going into further detail as to what's going on in the trailers, as well as share my thoughts and opinions about the movie itself. I'm also going to go ahead and speculate a little bit on what I think is going on. Also, just so you know, I have no insider information about anything I'm about to say. However, I'm going to go ahead and give a spoiler alert regardless, just in case some of you don't want to know anything about the movie and I for whatever reason end up getting something right. So yeah, with all of that said, let's get right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a 17-second teaser. Even though not much was shown in it, I feel like I should still probably talk about it. So I'm pretty sure the majority of this teaser takes place before the airport scene in Civil War. If you notice, Peter is actually wearing the old suit that he had in Civil War. So this leads me to believe that this hotel room is in Germany and all of this happens before the airport scene in Civil War. So this begs the question, are these scenes actually in the movie or were they cut from Civil War? And if this scene is in the movie, could this mean that the movie is going to start before the airport battle in Civil War? Or is this some kind of flashback that comes in later on? Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the actual trailer. We started off with a few shots of Queens, just kind of establishing where we are. Nothing too interesting going on. Then we get a bank robbery. The guys robbing the bank, they don't seem that bad. They seem like normal, everyday, low-level criminals, However, they have this crazy super advanced tech that they're using to open an ATM. So how did they get this crazy super gun thing, whatever it is, I'm not super sure. So I think that what's going on here is that the Tinkerer is giving low-level thugs some high-tech advanced weapons to perform their crimes with, and that's how these guys got their hands on whatever this thing is. So since the Tinkerer is confirmed to be in the movie, that's pretty much the only guess I have as to why they have this thing. Alright, so next we got some quippy jokes. Spider-Man is just kind of chilling there, just watching the crime go down. We see that the criminals are wearing Avengers masks, and we get some nice little quips from Spider-Man referencing the MCU. It's pretty nice to see Spider-Man being able to make references to the MCU, which is something we weren't previously able to get with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but it's nice to have now. So yeah, we get a look at Spider-Sense in action here. He looks pretty cool. He's dodging all of these punches, fucking being a badass and whatnot. Before we move on from this scene, I just want to say that I really like the fact that he's stopping a smaller scale crime. Something I'd like to see more of is him stopping street level crimes. Have him stop some more street level crimes, like stopping a mugger or helping an old lady cross the street. I don't know, like something that doesn't involve trying to protect all of Manhattan. Just some smaller scale crimes that aren't like world threatening or anything like that. Now we get to see a Sony and a Columbia Pictures logo, which, kinda killed the vibe for me a little bit because reminded me that they still have some involvement with the movie. However, then we get a Marvel Studios logo, which, fills me back with joy and hope. So that's, we turned that around pretty fast. Now we get to see him dealing with high school life, and we get our first look at some of the supporting cast. First off, we got this guy, Ned Leeds. So Ned in the comics is a guy that Peter meets in the Daily Bugle. During this time, Peter is trying to maintain a relationship with Betty Brant, who is played by this girl in the Raimi movies, and she's played by this other girl in the MCU, but more on her later. Peter and Betty's relationship doesn't really work out for a number of reasons, so she decides to marry Ned instead. However, this movie doesn't seem to be doing that. Instead, he seems to be taking on the role of Genki. Genki is a character in Ultimate Spider-Man who is friends with Miles Morales. The MCU version of Ned and Genki have a lot of similarities, one of the bigger ones being that they both know Spider-Man's secret identity. Personally, I think it's a good choice to give Peter a friend. I especially think it's smart that they're moving away from Harry Osborn, just to try to be a little different from the Sony movies, as well as try to separate yourself from the other two franchises. Alright, so next up we got Liz Allen. Liz Allen is a girl that Peter has a crush on in high school. She never really pays too much attention to Peter, but once he becomes Spider-Man, she starts to notice his newfound confidence and starts to get a crush on him. This complicates Peter's relationship with Betty, since Betty gets pretty jealous about the fact that Liz is all over Peter. Speaking of Betty, she's played by the girl who's standing behind Liz. She doesn't really do much in the trailer, but maybe she's a possible love interest for Peter, and then Liz goes on to make her jealous, like they do in the comics. Or maybe Betty will just go on with Ned right away. So really quick, before I move on to Michelle, I'd like to point out that my dude Peter here is eating pizza with a fork. Come on man, you should know better than that. You're from New York for God's sake, dude. Like everyone from New York always talks like big talk, like, oh man, our pizza's the best pizza ever, oh man, New York pizza, best pizza. And you're over there eating it with a fork? Dude, come on, dude. How are you gonna squander the good name of pizza by eating it with a fork? You gotta get your principles straight, Peter. Alright, so this is Michelle, played by Zendaya, or, One of the two. I don't know how to say it. I haven't really read much Spider-Man with Michelle in it, but from what I do know about her, I know she's a lawyer and that she at some point becomes Peter's roommate. I also know that her and Peter end up having a one-night stand, and this kinda makes their relationship pretty awkward. Since I doubt most of this is gonna be in the movie, I'm pretty interested to see what they do with the character. Maybe they make her the love interest instead of Betty. Alright, so we get this pretty funny interaction between Tony and Peter. I gotta say, I really like the dynamic of these two. Tony's like a mentor to Peter, and all Peter really wants to do is impress his senpai. Alright, so going back to school, we see Peter here just kinda chilling in class, you know? He's watching his copy of Captain America Civil War for like the 17th time in class, but then he gets caught for it. Alright, so after he gets in trouble, we see this kid who's sitting in front of Peter. He turns around, right? This is none other than Eugene Flash Thompson. In the Raimi movies, he's played by this guy, who is going to go on to play Deathstroke in the Ben Affleck Batman movie. And in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, he's played by this other guy, who is in probably other stuff. I don't know. Flash is also the guy who bullies Peter here in school. Flash is also the self-proclaimed #1 fan of Spider-Man. So yeah, that causes some fun little dynamic when he praises Spider-Man. Then he continues to go on and shit on poor, puny Petey Parker. Well, I've heard some concern on the internet about this actor being too small and unintimidating, but I don't know, we'll have to see more on him before I can really judge him on being a big scary bully, so that's really all I have to say for him for now. Alright, so skipping ahead in the trailer for a bit, we see Spidey sneaking into a room. I noticed that the layout of this room is different than the one that we see in Civil War, so this either means this isn't his house, this is Ned's house, which I don't know why Peter's surprised to see Ned in his own house if it is. Him and Aunt May moved to a different house, or this is some kind of dorm room that he shares with Ned. I personally want to lead more towards the dorm room side, considering that there's bunk beds. Also, I'd like to point out that Ned is building some Death Star Lego set, so way to get your Star Wars into my Spider-Man Disney. I see how it is. Gotta advertise all of your movies, like everywhere. Real quick, I'd just like to point out that the fact that Ned is playing with Legos is another similarity that he has with Genki. We also see that the suit seems to be vacuum sealed or something. I don't know. He pushes a button on the thing, on the symbol, and I don't know. It looks cool, man. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty interested. Alright, so now the trailer takes us to Washington, D.C., which I kind of remember hearing about a few months ago, that the school takes them on a field trip to Washington, D.C., or something along those lines. Now we get our first real look at the Vulture, and I gotta say, he looks pretty badass, dude. The Vulture's original design looks kinda stupid. I'm just calling it as I see it. An old-ass man in a feathered bird suit, it looks kinda dumb. Considering that Vulture is one of Spider-Man's first villains, making his debut in Amazing Spider-Man #2 back in 1963, it's pretty cool to get him as a villain this early on in Peter Parker's time as Spider-Man. Also, this is completely my own opinion, but the wings in this movie are 100 times better than the ones that were teased in The Amazing Spider-Man. A little later, we see Spider-Man on the Washington Monument with some helicopter cops aiming at him. Don't know if these are real cops just kind of aiming at him because he's a vigilante, or if they're just some dudes who just kind of want to kill him. But regardless, they make him want to jump off the Washington Monument, and this is where we get our first good look at the web wings, or underarm web, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I think these are pretty cool because they're part of Spidey's original design. Originally in the comics they serve absolutely no purpose, but it looks like in this movie he's gonna be able to glide with them. I like the fact that they're bringing in elements from Spidey's past, like the web wings or the spider signal that we see in Civil War. The fact that he can glide leaves me with some concern. I don't really want him to glide around that often in the movie. I've always liked the fact that Spider-Man has a unique method of traversal. Spider-Man is known for his swinging, and I feel like if you make him use the web wings to glide too often, you kind of lose sight of what he's known for, you know? It's a minor little concern I have about the movie. Alright, so now we get some really fast shots here. So first we get a shot of Liz Allen on the phone, asking Peter where he is. This leads me to believe that later in the movie, Liz Allen is actually gonna like Peter and care for him, similar to how she does in the comics. Next we get a look at the Shocker, but I'll get back to that in a bit because I'm pretty sure that's not really Shocker. We get a shot of Peter laying down on the beach, and he looks like he's gone through hell, dude. He looks like someone just like fucking kicked the shit out of him. Like seriously, dude, how are you gonna explain this one to Aunt May? You look like shit. What's interesting here is that he's wearing his crappy Civil War suit, though. Like, maybe this is a flashback, or he loses his new suit, which forces him to put on this one again. We see that Vulture is actually on the beach with Peter. Notice how Peter is unmasked during this, so maybe Vulture knows his secret identity? Maybe he figures it out? Who knows, man? It's the fun of speculations. Alright, so now we got Vulture destroying a ship with something that the Tinkerer probably made him. And as the ship tears apart, Spider-Man is holding on to it, trying to keep it from separating. This part reminds me a lot of the train scene from Spider-Man 2. Finally, the trailer ends with a shot of Spidey and Iron Man, you know, just to give one final reminder to the audience that this is an MCU movie and it's gonna be legit as fuck. Now, before I get into my final speculation, there was also an international trailer that came out alongside the original trailer, and it has a few different scenes here and there, so I thought it'd be worth mentioning them. First, we get to see the guy who's actually playing Shocker. In the first trailer, we see the guy who has the traditional Shocker jacket, but no gauntlets. Now we see this dude who actually has the gauntlets. Then we get confirmation that the Shocker is the guy who pushed the bus from the first trailer. Notice how Peter is wearing a shitty Civil War costume again. Next, we see that the person that Peter is saving in this shot actually might be Liz Allen. I don't know. I can't really tell. I'm gonna go ahead and assume it's Liz. Looks like Liz to me. It might not be. I don't know. It's kind of blurry. But, you know, with all the motion and whatnot. This movie looks like it's going to be a really good Spider-Man high school story, which is exactly what I wanted for a long time now. I'm pretty sure a good part of the plot is going to be about how Peter wants to prove himself to the Avengers, but Tony is trying to keep him out of danger, and he's trying to talk him out of fighting the Vulture. He wants to be seen as an actual superhero and not just some dumb kid. It looks like we're going to be getting a lot of scenes with him in high school, which I'm super down with. Probably the thing I'm most excited about is the fact that this plot doesn't seem the same. The other 5 movies we've had are way too similar to each other. It usually ends up going something like this. Peter meets a guy, aw man, now this guy that Peter knows closely becomes a supervillain. As the movie goes on, we get some I love you, I hate you with the love interest. Then Peter and the guy he knows personally who is now a villain end up fighting for a bit. Then the villain ends up killing himself for some reason. And then we end with an obligatory graveyard scene. I feel like it's actually going to be a pretty different movie, unlike the other 5 Spider-Man movies we've gotten. Don't get me wrong, I like those movies to extremely varying degree, but all of them feel the same when you really think about it. I'm very excited to watch this movie, and I kind of want to go dark on it from now on. Not know anything else about it, but I know I'm not gonna be able to resist not watching another trailer when it drops. So let me know what you thought of the trailer. Are you excited to watch the movie, or are you just completely burnt out on Spider-Man movies by now? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more just like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So yeah, make sure that you do that. You'll get updated every time I post another video, and you'll be pretty happy about it, and I'll be pretty happy about the fact that you subscribed, you know? It's like a whole circle of happiness going on here, you know? I'm sure most of you are gone by now. You know, I don't really know who I'm talking to anymore, but, you know, I usually leave during the outros too, don't feel bad. Just kind of leave the person whose video I'm watching just kind of talking to themselves like an idiot. That's kind of what most of you probably did to me now, but for those of you who did stick around, hey, you guys are my favorite, and yeah, bye.